Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Hong Kong Horror. I'm your narrator, Simon. Did any of you ever pull pranks when you were kids? I know I did. When I was in the second grade, my neighbors and I would ride our bikes around the neighborhood playing Ding Dong Ditch. We dared each other to ring random doorbells and then pedal away as fast as we could before anyone came out. It was all laughs, that rush of adrenaline, the fear of being caught. Until we actually did get caught. The homeowner burst out the door, yelling at us to go home. There are a lot of harmless pranks that kids still pull, even today. But sometimes, you really have to be careful, because some pranks, if you cross the line, can change everything. Tonight's story is a well-known one across Asia. It's been told in a few different versions over the years, but the message is always the same, a prank that went horribly wrong. And after the story, as always, we'll break it down together. I'll show what I personally think happened from a Chinese cultural perspective. So turn on the lights, get comfy, and let's dive right into this one. Also, one more note. As a reminder, this is my only YouTube channel. So if you hear my voice being used on any other channel, it's not me. Someone probably cloned my voice with AI. I only narrate on this YouTube channel. And occasionally, I do collaborations with other YouTubers. This next story was shared by a man in Hong Kong. Let's call him Agit. This happened many years ago, back when cell phones were still brand new, and only a few people actually had one. Most folks still relied on landlines, or the old public payphones you would see on the street corners. Back then, Agit was just your typical high school kid, definitely not the studious type. His grades were terrible, always near the bottom of the class. He cared more about hanging out with friends and playing soccer after school. But more than anything, Agit was a prankster. He and his friends loved causing harmless trouble, playing Ding Dong Ditch after school, ringing random doorbells in old apartment buildings, and sprinting away before anyone caught them. In class, he balanced chalkboard erasers above the doors so that anyone that walked in would get showered in a puff of white dust. And of course, there were prank calls. Before the age of smartphones, prank calls were every teenager's favorite pastime, especially back then when caller ID wasn't really a thing yet. Agit lived in a public housing estate with his parents. Aside from watching TV, there wasn't really much else to do indoors, so he spent most of his time outside, either wandering around town with his friends or playing soccer. It was always more fun than staying inside that cramped little flat. Not too far from his building, there was a single phone booth. One night, after a long game of soccer, Agit was walking home, sipping an energy drink he picked up from 7-Eleven. On a whim, he decided to step into that phone booth to make one of his infamous prank calls. He had a pocket full of loose change and figured, why not? He did this pretty often. Prank calls were his thing. He loved them. He never knew what kind of reaction he would get. Sometimes people were just confused. Sometimes they got really angry. And other times they would get scared. As he slipped a coin into the slot, he wondered, what kind of reaction will he get tonight? Tonight, Agit decided he wanted a confused reaction. He dialed a random number off the top of his head. The line rang a few times before a man picked up. "Why?" the man said. Agit breathed heavily into the receiver, but said nothing. "Why? Bimwaya?" "Who's this?" the man repeated, sounding annoyed. That's when Agit spoke. "I'm downstairs. Can you come open the door for me?" The man went silent for a few seconds. You could almost hear the gears turning in his head, trying to figure out who was calling him so late. "Who is this?" he demanded. "Just come down and open the door already. I've been waiting forever," Agit said. Then click. Agit hung up, grinning to himself. He could already picture this man standing in his living room, confused and irritated, wondering who on earth might be waiting outside for him. Feeling proud of himself, Agit was about to step out of the booth when he noticed something. A small folded slip of paper sticking out from a narrow slot behind the phone. It looked like it had been there for a while. On it was a phone number, with a few little hearts doodled beside it. He still had some spare change left. Why not, he thought. One more prank call for tonight. Holding the paper in one hand, he dialed the number with the other. The line rang a few times. Then a young woman's voice answered. She was soft-spoken, almost whispering. Her voice sounded distant, like she was calling from another room or somewhere really far away. Agit decided to turn up the creepy factor. "Hey beautiful," he said playfully. "I'm downstairs. Hurry up and come let me in." There was silence. Then, after a few seconds, the woman replied, very faintly, "Okay." And then, the line went dead. Agit was stunned. No reaction at all? Unsatisfied, he slipped another coin into the phone and dialed the same number again. As the line started to ring, time seemed to slow down, each ring echoing longer than it should have. It felt like it was ringing forever, before, click, the same soft voice answered. "Hello?" Agit deepened his tone, trying to sound older. "Hey gorgeous, I said I'm outside. I thought you were coming down to let me in." Then, there was silence again. Then the woman let out a quiet, breathy laugh and hung up. That ticked him off. He pulled out his best prank caller voice, and all he got was a laugh. Without a word, he slammed another coin into the slot and dialed again. The phone rang over and over. Finally, click, the same faint, distinct voice. "Hello?" Normally when a call connects, you can hear something, faint breathing, background noise, the hum of a TV somewhere. But this time, all that Agit could hear was a sort of static. Then, after a few seconds, even that faded, replaced by a strange, unnatural silence, like the world on the other end of the line had gone completely still. Before Agit could say anything, the woman spoke first. "I'll come find you." The strange thing was, his right ear was pressed against the receiver, but her voice came from his left ear. Then, click, the line went dead. "What the?" he muttered under his breath. Feeling a little unsettled now, Agit decided to call it a night. He folded a little slip of paper and tucked it into his pocket, already planning to prank call that same girl again another day. As he strolled home sipping his energy drink and humming an old Cantonese pop tune, something made him turn around. The phone booth he just stepped out of was maybe 20 seconds behind him, and there, standing just outside the booth, was a girl in a white dress, peering through the glass like she was looking for someone inside. She didn't move, she just stood there, staring in. Agit froze for a second. His mind flicked back to that call. No way, he thought. It can't be her. It was probably just someone waiting to use the phone. After staring for a few more seconds, Agit turned back around and continued walking home. Honestly, he forgot about the whole thing for a few days. But a couple of nights later, again, after one of his late-night soccer games, he reached into his pocket and felt something familiar. That slip of paper, the one with the phone number and the little hearts drawn beside it. He smirked. Perfect night to prank her again, he thought. When he reached the phone booth near his apartment, he stepped inside, dropped a coin into the slot, and dialed the number again. The phone rang a few times, but no one picked up. Agit figured she wasn't home, or maybe she was too scared to answer this time. He chuckled proudly at himself, thinking that maybe he really had gotten to her last time. He hung up and was about to leave, when the public phone rang. The sudden sound made him freeze. Booth was empty. The street around him was quiet. Slowly, he picked up the receiver. "Hello?" he said. There was a harsh, distorted static on the other end. Then a click, as if someone had just hung up. But before Agit could lower the receiver, he heard it. A voice, loud, sharp, and close. Not through the phone, but inside his head. "Found you," followed by laughter. Startled, Agit dropped the receiver, heart pounding. He could feel it, that cold, prickling sense that someone was right behind him. Slowly, he turned around. Pressed up against the glass of the phone booth was a woman, the same woman in the white dress he saw a few nights ago. Her face was inches from his, smiling. But the smile was too wide, too stretched, too wrong. She stared straight at him through the glass, her grin twisting even wider as a sound began bubbling out of her throat. A laugh. Agit stumbled backwards and fell to the ground. Terrified, he scrambled out of the phone booth, crawling at first, then running for his life. He didn't dare look back. What if she's chasing me, he thought. His legs burned as he sprinted toward home, his mind repeating over and over, "This isn't real. This can't be real. I'm dreaming. I have to be dreaming." The whole incident shook him so badly that he swore off prank calls altogether. But it wasn't over. It was only the beginning of a string of strange events that would haunt him for months. One night, after another late-night soccer game, Agit was walking home as usual. When he reached the familiar street corner, he saw the phone booth again. His chest tightened. Memories of that night flashed through his head. Her face against that glass, that awful grin. He forced himself to look away and quickened his pace. That's when he heard it. Footsteps. Short, deliberate, following right behind him. He spun around quickly, but the street was empty. No one was there. He turned back and kept walking, trying to calm down. But the footsteps started again, matching his pace exactly. When he stopped, they stopped. When he walked, they followed. Now, terrified, Agit broke into a brisk walk, then a jog. And the phantom steps quickened with his, growing louder, closer. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He ran, sprinting down the street, heart pounding. He darted across the road toward his apartment building, not noticing a car turning the corner. Tires screeched. The driver slammed on the brakes just in time as Agit stumbled backwards and fell hard onto the street. The driver jumped out, furious. "Are you crazy? Playing tag with your girlfriend this late at night? You're gonna get yourself killed." The driver threw out a few Cantonese curses at Agit before getting back into his car and speeding off. Agit sat there, trembling. His knees were scraped, but otherwise he was fine. What wasn't fine was what the driver had said. Playing tag with your girlfriend? Agit slowly turned his head. There was no one there. He had been walking home completely alone. Things only got stranger as the days went by. Agit began seeing things that weren't really there. When he showered, sometimes he caught a faint outline of a figure standing just outside the curtain. But every time he pulled it back, no one. In his living room, the little nightlight that turned on with motion began flickering randomly throughout the night, even when the air was still and no one was near it. And then came the nightmares. Night after night, Agit dreamed of that phone booth, the same scene replaying again and again. The woman in the white dress, her face pressed against the glass, whispering the same words each time. "Give it back. It doesn't belong to you." Agit had no idea what she meant, but every time he woke up drenched in sweat, heart racing. His health began to decline. He caught colds constantly, and his body ached all the time. When he played soccer, he would trip, twist his ankle, get injured in ways he'd never used to. It felt like everything in his life was starting to fall apart. One night, after school, he rode his bike to a nearby herbal tea shop, one of those old school learn top places, to pick up some medicine for his parents. The shop owner, an older auntie, known for chatting with all her customers, smiled as she handed him the herbs. "Such a good son," she said, "coming all this way to buy medicine for your parents." As Agit paid and turned to leave, she called out again. "Hey young man, take some of these cookies. A friend gave me too many. You can share them with your girlfriend on your way home." Agit froze. "Girlfriend?" he repeated. "Yes, that girl you came with. She was sitting on the back of your bicycle when you arrived," the auntie said cheerfully, wrapping the cookies and tucking them into his bag of herbs. "Don't be shy, share them together." Agit's mouth went dry. He didn't even try to explain. He just nodded weakly, thanked her, and walked out. He couldn't bring himself to ride the bike home. He simply hung the bag of herbs and cookies on the handlebars and walked the bike home the whole way back, trembling the entire time. That was the last straw. Agit didn't know what was happening to him, but he knew, without a doubt, something was very wrong. That night, as Agit tossed and turned in bed, he couldn't stop thinking about that recurring nightmare. "Give it back. It doesn't belong to you." What did she mean? Give what back? He's never stolen from anyone before. And then it hit him. The slip of paper. The one he found in the phone booth. That was the only thing he's ever picked up that wasn't his. It was already close to 11 o'clock, and he couldn't wait until morning. Quietly, he snuck out of his apartment, the folded piece of paper clutched tightly in his hand. When he reached the phone booth, he froze. There was already someone inside. At first, he thought the man was just making a call. But as Agit got closer, he realized this man was frantically searching around the phone, checking every crevice and corner. "Excuse me, sir," Agit said softly. "Are you looking for this?" The man, maybe in his late 30s, looked up. The moment he saw the slip of paper, his eyes widened, filled with relief. Yes, thank you, young man. Thank you so much." He reached out and took the paper gently, as if it was something precious. "I'm sorry," Agit said. "I didn't know it was important. May I ask why?" The man stared down at the faded note, a faint smile forming on his lips. "It's alright," he said quietly. "You wouldn't have known. It's not the number that matters. I know it by heart." He paused. "This belonged to my late fiancée. When we first met, our families didn't approve of us. She wrote her number down on this paper, and I hid it here, at this very booth, where I would sneak out at night to call her. She passed away not long ago. I came back to find it, to keep it close, as a memory." Agit stood there, speechless. In that moment, everything made sense. The voice on the phone, the footsteps, the woman in white. It was her, searching for that piece of herself that had been left behind. The man thanked him again and walked off into the night, clutching the paper close to his chest. Agit remained standing by the booth for a long time, the quiet hum of the streetlights surrounding him. From that night on, the nightmares stopped. The motion light in his living room stayed still. The strange sickness faded away. And Agit never, ever made a prank call again. So, Hong Kong horror fans, what do you think happened here to Agit? Please pause the video here and let me know what you think in the comments below. Alright, so what do I think happened here in this incident? Let's break it down together from a Chinese cultural point of view. In Chinese belief, objects carry spiritual resonance, what we call linghei, something deeply tied to emotion, like that slip of paper with the lover's handwriting, can retain part of the person's energy even after death, especially if the person passed away suddenly or with unfinished longing. The energy doesn't fully cross over. When Agit picked up that slip of paper, he wasn't just taking a note. He had unknowingly taken possession of a spiritual link between two souls, the man and his late fiancée. To her spirit, it felt like someone had stolen a piece of her connection to the mortal world. That's why she kept saying, "Give it back." The misfortunes that followed, Agit's health declining, the accidents, the constant nightmares, all fall under what elders would call soiwon, a run of bad luck brought on by disturbing the dead. It's believed that when a living person interferes with something belonging to the spirit world, their yang energy weakens, letting yin entities draw near. But notice, once you return the paper to its rightful owner, everything stopped. In Cantonese culture, that's known as wan mat wan wan, returning the object, returning the soul. When balance is restored, the spirit can finally rest, and the living person's luck returns. So in the end, Agit wasn't cursed for being cruel. He was punished for being careless. A prank that seemed harmless crossed the boundary between the living and the dead. And that's something our ancestors always warned us about. 玩得太過火會惹靈上身. When you play too far, the spirits might start playing back. In Chinese culture, the act of calling someone carries a symbolic weight. The phone itself is seen as a kind of channel, a line that connects two spaces. When you speak through it, your voice and intent travel through invisible currents, what older generations might call yin pathways. That's why we sometimes say, don't answer strange calls at midnight. The belief is that certain hours, especially between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m., are when yin energy is strongest. When Agit dialed that number, he wasn't just dialing the phone. He was unknowingly reactivating a spiritual link that belonged to someone else. That slip of paper he found in the booth wasn't an ordinary scrap. It was a token of attachment, an emotional anchor left by the woman and her fiancé. In life, that number represented the connection. In death, it became a bridge that still tied her spirit to this world. The moment he dialed it, it could be very possible that his voice became the first living one to call her again. To her restless spirit, that sound was a summons. Think of it as lighting an incense in the wrong place. You might not mean harm, but you still invited something that remembers the scent. By calling her number, he opened the door for her to find him. And when she said, "I'll come find you," it wasn't metaphorical, it was literal. The prank call also mirrors a core Chinese superstition. Don't mock the unseen. When you speak playfully about spirits or pretend to interact with them, boundary between jest and invitation blurs. The spirit world doesn't always understand humor. It responds to intent and sound. So to the woman's lingering soul, Agit's flirtatious, "I'm downstairs, come open the door," could have sounded like the voice of her lover calling her once more. That's why she appeared. She wasn't vengeful at first, she was simply answering. And when she realized the voice wasn't her fiancé, but a stranger playing a prank, her sorrow turned into rage and confusion. That's when her spirit began to cling to him, following him home, echoing in his dreams, demanding what was taken. This is what we call 接星层面, seeking someone through a borrowed voice. It's when a ghost uses the voice or vibration of a living person to locate a connection it's lost. So the moment that Agit made that first prank call became the signal. He unknowingly carried her presence with him until he finally returned what was hers. Once he restored that slip of paper, the final physical link to her memory, the balance was restored. The spirit no longer had to search. And that's why all the hauntings stopped. So the next time you pass by a ringing payphone late at night, maybe just keep walking. You never know who might be on the other line, still waiting for a call that was never meant for you.